I'm Adam Willems, lead reporter at the FR.
And I'm Sarah Biller, the co-founder of the Fintech Sandbox.
Thank you, Sarah, for being here.
Adam, what a treat. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm curious first, we were talking before we got the cameras rolling. We were talking about the way that public perceptions of fintech and financial services have evolved over time. And I'd love to hear a little recap of what we were chatting about.
Yeah, Adam, thank you for that, because it was this moment that I shared with you when I started in fintech. It was in the wake of the credit crisis. I had been in institutional financial services before, but rolled out to start a company. And it was at that moment that financial services was looked at as the agent of the reason why the sky was falling and why there was such distress. And I think what we're seeing now, some decade and a half later, is that moment where financial services, and perhaps more precisely fintech, is an agent of important change. It's embedding in places where we have intractable challenges and making a real meaningful difference. And we see it. We see it everywhere, particularly in the work that you do at the FR.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm curious. What do you think sort of catalyzed that change? Is it technology? Is it regulation? Is it macroeconomic conditions, which obviously are influenced by those two previous variables?
Yeah. I think there's a third aspect there too. There's new talent. There's new individuals coming in at fintech, and they're obviously optimizing for the fact that the power of fintech, whether it's payments, whether it's lending and credit, whether it's institutional investment, really pushing the power of the capital markets into these challenges. And we can look at them in the context of not just sort of risk analytics for a stock portfolio, but sending in capital into places where there's desire to do poverty alleviation and drive inclusivity. There's embedding fintech in challenges like clean water and new energy forms. So it's a really exciting moment and a change that I think all of us have long known could happen. But here we are. And now what are we going to do with it?
Right. With that in mind, sort of your core thesis and Fintech Sandbox thesis has been, a decade-long argument for the importance of data.
Yes.
And that still remains the case now, maybe even more so than it was a decade ago. So what kind of implications does that have for you? And where do you think that leaves sort of the state of finance writ large?
Yeah, it's such an important question, because every organization like us that's now a decade old, you take a step back and you say, gosh, let us like sort of gut check ourselves. Just recently did this with my co-founder, David Jagan. Do we remain relevant? Do we remain relevant to the institutional space, to the entrepreneurs we serve, to the data sponsors who have been partners? And I think what we would say with great affirmation is that data is more important today than it was a year ago. I mean, a year ago, gosh, 10 years ago, feels like a year. And I think that what's really interesting for us is that we looked at data historically, whether it was, tick data, whether it was, lined up transaction data, all those much more highly structured pieces of information. And what has changed in financial services today is the ability to aggregate, ingest, normalize data from a variety of sources, coming far faster than we could have ever guessed. I mean, that's a big change, right? For velocity. And then where it's coming from. I mean, you're now having to be a data aggregator in fintech that looks at computer visioning or reads, NLP and also podcasts. Like this could be synthesized for someone trying to make a decision today on the sentiment of the future of fintech innovation. So it's all changed. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a little spooky to think about.
It is. Your words will matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Where does that leave you at events like Fintech Meetup? What are you looking for? Who are you connecting with? And what are you gleaning from sort of this coagulation of talent? I don't know how to, it's an amoeba of.
It is. It is amorphous. It is definitely, what's so remarkable is how chaos organizes itself. It's just not chaos in nature that organizes itself. It's here at Fintech Meetup too. And I mean, I've had over 20 meetings. What's so remarkable is they've spanned most of the fintech disciplines. I've had a lot of very promising meetings with capital allocators or the venture teams.
Okay.
Super exciting to see them really want to reach back in, they see Fintech Sandbox as a vehicle for finding sort of the best next great startup, those
Yeah.
that are data-driven and quantitative. I've met with people that are international, that are coming here looking for solutions and innovators, and so seeking partnership there. All of that tells me, again, that the criticality of having a well-functioning financial services sector doesn't end with us here locally or even nationally. We are an intertwined global marketplace.
Right.
And there's an application of technology and new data to make things better.
Right.
There are some stall points that we're going to confront for sure.
Okay.
Right. But at the same time, if we're wisely applying data, whether it's to do real-time AML KYC checks for embedded banking, whether it's to actually improve the access to credit, which makes the world go round, to individuals who historically have not had credit, all the way through that continuum, we've found it here, and we know that the next chapter of innovation is being written.
I think that's a great place to close the interview.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
perfect.
Adam, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.